Welcome to today's topic number 3, about inventory management within ERPNext. And in this one, we are going to be looking at getting started with the inventory management module. I have set up an instance at local.demo and that. This is basically supposed to be for this training. So I have not even set it up. We are going to be setting it up together. See, I just logged in. I can save that. Then I just need to set up this wizard. You can see my name is Karani Geoffrey, and my email address is that, and my password. Oh, that's a weak password. You need to change that. We can use that, and then we click on next. Yeah, not a problem. And then here we can say maybe this is Supersoft Limited, and then we can leave everything else as a default, and then we save. Now remember, that is not part of the inventory management. I just wanted to let you know that I have set up this instance specifically for what we are doing here in this series going forward. And because the first two topics have been about introduction, then we didn't need to do any demo. But starting today, we are going to be starting demos all the way to the end, and therefore we need an instance of ERPNext. So that is why I have set up this one on my local computer, just to ensure that we have somewhere we can work on. So we allow it 1 more minute to finish that, and then we can get started. You can see now it is refreshing, and I can even see on the browser that it is actually refreshing, and there you go. So you can see here that it has logged me in as the user that I created. I just want to log out and log in as an administrator. So I like to work as an admin, of course, because I will have much more control. You see here now I am logged in as an administrator. Now, what are we going to be looking at today? I already told you that we are looking at getting started with ERPNext, and I have prepared a few notes that I want us to explore here. The first thing that you need to do here when you get on the ERPNext instance is to make sure that you have this stock module here. If you don't have that, you may need to check with your IT team, or if you don't have an IT team, you are independent, then you can look for Supersoft online, supersoft.com. We can help you address that. So here you have stock, and this is a dashboard. So a dashboard will basically start creating you visuals that you can see quickly when you are using your stock management. And then down here we have a number of links. These are basically quick access links that you can click on when you need to access any of these individuals here. And there is one that I want us to focus on today, which is stock settings. Of course, in the settings one, there is stock settings as the first one. And then we have warehouses. So actually, we are going to look at warehouses even before we look at stock settings, because there is somewhere in stock settings we will need a warehouse. So I'll click on warehouse first, and you can see out of the box we have like 5 warehouses. We have goods in transit, we have finished goods, we have work in progress, we have stores, and we have all warehouses. Now this is what we call a list view of the warehouses, and you can see here, if you click on this, you see we have a few other lists, views, and the most important view that I want us to discuss today, I mean the most important today, I don't mean the others are not important, is the tree view. If I click on the tree view, you notice that this changes to this. Now looks like we have just one warehouse, because remember, Supersoft Limited is the company. So all warehouses is the only warehouse we have. Why is that? This is because now this has changed this into a tree where you can see all the warehouses depending on their hierarchy. So here we have the first warehouse as all warehouses, which is a parent warehouse or a group warehouse. And inside it, we have the other 4 warehouses, right? So to create a warehouse, for example, if you want to create a warehouse inside here, you just need to click on add child. Or if you go back to our list here, you can click on add warehouse, and then there you go. Warehouse name, we can say Karani Joffrey. This is just an example, remember. If it has a parent warehouse, you can add it here, even if it is all warehouses. If it is not under all warehouses, you can leave it like that. And then we have the account. If you want to specify the account which is going to be affected, otherwise, if that is left blank, you can see that it is explained here. If blank, parent warehouse account or company default will be considered in transactions. So if you have a parent warehouse here, that parent for that one, I mean the account that is in this parent is what is going to be used here. If you do not have a parent there, then the account that is a default in the stock settings in your company is what is going to be used in stock transactions. And then down here we also have warehouse contact information. This is where you need to specify who manages that warehouse, and therefore you can be able to contact those people easily. You have things like phone number, mobile number, and the addresses, and even the city and the PIN. Then we have transit. This one has just two fields: the warehouse type, where you can be able to select whether the warehouse is a transit warehouse, or you can even create a new warehouse type. And then this is basically where you need to group your warehouses. There is no much magic here. If you need to group your warehouses into maybe transit warehouse, storage warehouse, and the other types of warehouses you may have in your business, then that is when you can do this here. Then default in transit warehouse. This is basically if you want to set a default for the items that are going to be in transit for that warehouse, you can be able to do that there. Then with that, we just go ahead and save our warehouse. And now if we go back here, you see we have, we needed to make this a group, I believe. So you see now that we cannot set this as a group account, yeah, from here, but you can click on this convert to group up here, and that is going to automatically convert our warehouse into a group account. So now you see that is what has happened. If we come to this view and go to tree view again, you notice that now we have two in the first level. The first one is all warehouses, and then here we have Karani Joffrey, which does not have any child. If you want to add children to this, you just add here, and remember this is basically another warehouse. So clicking on this and adding a warehouse name and then the rest of the things is the same as coming here, creating on this, then giving it a name, then selecting a parent as Karani Joffrey. It is the same thing. So for example, if I do test warehouse and then I do this and save, you'll notice that when I come back here and I go to tree view, I'm going to see that account under this. So that is a child of that warehouse. That is what I want to say about creating of warehouses. The next thing that I want us to look at here today, before time goes a lot, is the stock settings. Remember I told you that we're going to be focusing on these two guys today. Now let's go here because there is quite some things to be done here. As you see, here we have a number of tabs. We have defaults, we have stock valuations, we have stock reservation, we have serial batch item, we have stock planning, and we have stock closing. I want to explore quickly what these things mean because they're important for you to do efficient stock management. So the first thing here, the item naming by, this is when you are creating an item. You want to provide it a name based on what? Is it an item code, or do you want to do a naming series? If you do item code, the code that you're going to place in the item code is what is going to, in the item code field, is what is going to be used as the name of the item. But if you select on naming series, then it is going to use a naming series, which can be an auto-generated input, or rather auto-generated series of numbers or characters that is going to be used as the name of the item. So that is basically dependent on you. Then here we have default valuation method, and if you hover on this, you can see that we have a documentation there. In the in ERPNext we have three valuation methods. We have FIFO, we have moving average, and we have LIFO. Again, you can pick any depending on how you want to do valuation for your stock. Default item group, this is again when you are creating an item. If you want to specify the group of the item when you are creating it, and I'm going to be showing you that either tomorrow or later today. I may decide to do a number of videos today actually, because I want to finish this series faster. So I will be showing you how to create an item later today, and therefore we are going to be seeing how to use item groups. So if you want to set a default one, you can specify that there. Also, we have default warehouse. So again, remember the warehouses that we created, and I told you that we are going to be needing a warehouse in the settings. This is what I was talking about. So you can remove this one, and we can decide to use any of these warehouses as the default warehouse for your system. Then here we have sample retention warehouse. This is where you need to retain samples, right? So you need to retain samples of items for your customers, and you want them to be in a specific warehouse, so that every time the system does a sample retention, it removes it from the default warehouse to the sample retention warehouse. You can say that one there. Default stock UM, again, this one is going to be seen when we are doing entry of an item. If you have many items in one unit of measure, you can set the default unit of measure there, and when you are creating an item, you'll be able to change that to the unit of measure that you like to use for the specific item that you are creating. Then we are done with that. We come down here, we have price list defaults, and we see here the first checkbox is checked that says auto insert item price if missing. This means that when you're selling or even buying, and the system notices that you don't have a price list for that specific item, then it automatically creates the item price for that. So this is what this checkbox means. If it is checked, it's going to do that. If it is unchecked, the system is not going to create an item price even if it does not exist. Then we have update existing price list. This is where you have a price list already for a specific item. Let's say, for example, for 100 shillings, but then you sell that item for 120 shillings. So when you click on this, the system is going to update that price list from 100 shillings to 120 shillings. Then the next thing that we have here is stock quantity. Allow to edit stock quantity for sales documents and then purchase documents. Now, this is in this event where you're using multiple units of measures. Yeah. And you notice that when you are selling, sometimes the system may tell you that you cannot specify that kind of a UOM because it does not allow decimals. So when this is checked, the system is going to allow you to change that UOM on documents like sales invoice. And the same case applies here, but this one is in documents like purchase invoice, which are basically purchase documents. And we are done with number one. Number two is the stock validations. And of course, if you have any questions for me, please put them in the description section below, and I'll be able to respond to them in the soonest time possible, or soonest possible, the shortest time possible. Stock validation. Now, over deliver stroke receipt allowance percentage. This is the thing that tells you, and you can see there's a description that Frappe has provided for you there, or ERPNext has provided for you there. This is what percentage of the items do you want to over deliver. So for example, a customer ordered 10 items. What is the percentage that you want to be able to over deliver? For whatever reason, you can put that percentage there. And let me tell you, let me skip here first even before I go here. You notice that here we have raw allowed to over deliver. So it's not every time or anybody that is going to be able to just go to your system and then over deliver things. No, the system is going to only allow these people with these roles to do over delivery of items. Yeah, so you can specify a role there, and only the users with this role will be able to do this over delivery. Then I come back here to over transfer allowance. The same case, how much are you allowed to over transfer from one warehouse probably to another? That again, you can set a percentage there. Then we have over picking allowance. Again, this is the same. When you need to do picking of items. You need to come where you do pick lists, how much of what was ordered can you allow to overpick. That can be specified there. And we skip to the right here. We have a number of check boxes. The first one says allow negative stock. If you want the system to sell when you don't have enough stock in the system, then you just need to click on this. And you can see the system gives you a warning because it is not a very good thing to do negative stock. If you are doing this, you must really be knowing what you are doing, and you must be willing to do some manual work sometimes. And you can see that it also tells you that it is not going to allow FIFO and moving average. So you are going to use LIFO if you do that. So I'm going to uncheck that. But this is where you enable negative stock. Number 2 is show barcode field in stock transactions. This is when you are doing stock transactions, do you want to show the barcode field? That is as simple as that. Then convert item description to HTML in transactions. This is again, this is a little bit deeper. You may not really need that because this is converting stuff to HTML, which are more readable. So if you want things to be more readable, you can basically convert that to HTML. Then we have the last thing here, which says allow internal transfers at arm's length price. And you can see we have a description there. This is again the beauty of ERPNext. It says if enabled, the item rate won't adjust to the valuation rate during internal transfers, but accounting will still use the valuation rate. You see that? So if you enable this, the items that you have, the rates of those items are not going to be adjusted to the current valuation rates. But in the accounting documents, the valuation rate that you have is going to be affected. Yeah. Then we come down here, quantity inspection. If if quantity inspection is not submitted, so sometimes you may need quality inspection of things, and if it is not submitted, what is going to happen? You tell the system how you want to handle that. Do you want to stop the transaction, or do you want to warn the user? You can select. So if it is stopped, the transaction is completely going to be stopped. You can't continue. But if it's warned, then it's going to show a warning to the user, and when the user confirms that they want to proceed, then the system is going to proceed. Then here we have, I think there is something. No, I don't want to do that. Yeah, go back. Here we have action if quantity inspection is rejected. Again, the same thing. If you reject quality inspection, because somebody has to go there, do the inspection, then approve or reject. If it's rejected, what's going to happen? Stop or warn? The same explanation I give here, but this one is for rejection. The third tab is stock reservation. Now, this looks like we have just one checkbox that says enable stock reservation. Stock reservations is where a specific customer has come in and they have made an order, and probably what you have in stock is not available. They have ordered, let's say for example, 10 items and you have just 5. Do you want to be able to reserve those 5 for that sales order? Then of course, if you want to do that, then you check this. But you see, when we checked that, then the things came up. So what are these things that came up? The first one here to the right is saying allow partial reservation. Allow partial reservation is what I was telling you about. Yeah, so you can do reservation in full, and you can also do partial reservation. Actually, yes, this one I may have explained it badly. Reservation may not be in halves. When you do allow stock reservation, and I have come into your store and I have bought, or I have ordered 5 items, actually 5 items, then the system will automatically reserve those 5, yeah, if you already have them in the system. That's number 1. If you don't have the 5, you have 4, then that is when you need this. If this is checked, those 4 are going to be reserved so that you don't have anything to sell and you still have to add 5 for me. If this one is not checked, then they are not going to reserve halves. It's only going to reserve if it is full. The other thing we have here is auto reserve stock for sales orders on purchase. This is when you do a sales order, then you can automatically do a reserve of the stock for that specific sales order. Then we have serial numbers down here. What are they saying? Auto reserve serials and batch numbers, and this is serial and batch numbers will be auto reserved based on peak serial stroke batch based on. Yeah, so if this one is checked and you have enabled stock reservations, then even the batch numbers and the peak serial numbers are going to be reserved for your stock items. Then we have the fourth tab here, which is serial and batch item, and what we have here is simple. One, auto create serial and batch number for outward. Of course, this is something that you really need to have. So when you are doing your stock transactions and you have items that require tracking with batch numbers, you want them to auto create. Unless really if you want to do them manually for whatever reason, then you can leave that as unchecked, and then you will need to, of course, do that manually. Then here we have disabled serial and batch number selector. This one is where we have a possibility to select the batch numbers from a list. So if you don't want people to be able to do that, you just disable it. Here we have a default naming series for batch ID. So this is where you want to have a default naming series for the batch. So when you are generating the batches, the naming series is going to be used to use the default. If you check this, and you can see that when you check that, you need to specify that default. If you do not want that, then you can just uncheck it. You can just uncheck it, and then that is going to move away. Then the other checkbox we have here is use serial stroke batch fields, and you can see there is again a description which says, on submission of the stock transactions, system will auto create the serial and batch bundle based on the serial number stroke batch fields. So again, this is things to do with automation when you're using serial numbers and batches. If you want this to be automated such that when you submit stock transactions, it creates serial number batches, then you just need to check this. If you don't want to auto create that, again, for whatever reason, I don't know, then you can uncheck that. The other checkbox is do not update serial stroke batch numbers on create of auto bundle. Again, the description, if enabled, do not update serial stroke batch value in the stock transactions on create of auto serial stroke batch code. So if you do not want these things to do, if you want them to update the serials and the batches on creation of the batch bundles, then you leave this unchecked. But if you do not want updates to happen there, you just check this, and by default it is checked. Yeah. And then the last thing we have here is allow existing serial number to be manufactured stroke received. Again, allow existing serial numbers. This is when you have a serial number and you want it to be able to be reused for whatever reason, then you can check this, and you can be able to reuse serial numbers when you are manufacturing or when you are receiving items or goods. Then we have stock planning. Again, this is a very important tab for your inventory management. This is raise material request when stock reaches reorder level. In the system, that is in the ERP, you are able to set your reorder levels. So for example, if I have an item that I want to be notified when the quantity gets to 2, then I set that as a reorder level of 2. Yeah. So, and then the system is telling you here that it is going to, if you check this, it is going to raise a material request when that is reached. You may also want to notify by email when, again, let me see, notify by email on create of automatic material request. Oh yeah, this is when you create this material request, then you need to notify by email. If you check this, it's going to do that. If it is unchecked, it is not going to send that email even if it creates a material request. Then here we have inter-warehouse transfer. Allow material transfer from delivery notes to sales invoice. Yeah, this is when you want the system to allow transferring of materials from the delivery notes that you created to the sales invoices. Then you can enable that. And the other thing that we have here is allow materials transfer from purchase to, basically is the same thing, only that this one is a delivery note, this one is a purchase invoice, purchase receipt, sorry, to a purchase invoice. Those can be materials can be transferred there. Then we have stock closing, and what we have here is freezing. It's a lot of things to do with freezing stock. So what are these things freezing talking about? The one is stock frozen up to. If you want to freeze your stock for some reason, freezing basically means that there is no one that can do stock transactions in the system. Then you can freeze. For example, I can say I want to freeze this up to Monday. All right. And then here you can set up the role that is going to be able to operate the system when the stock is frozen. Yeah. And then here we have freeze orders that are older than how many days. You can specify like 3 days here, and those ones are going to be frozen. Anything that is older than 3 days is going to be frozen at that level. Then what is the role that is allowed to create or edit backdated transactions? This one, what it means is, you know, the current date and the current transaction. When you set up a row here, only the role the users with this role are going to be able to do stock transactions for those transactions that are older than the current transaction. So it will freeze everything that is not the current transaction, but only the people under this role will be able to operate that. So let me see whether there is anything else that I have. We looked at the dashboard, and I think that is it about stock transactions. Of course, I would like you to explore a lot what is happening here in all this, including reports, and of course the tool serial numbers and all this. You need to maybe install some kind of a test environment and check all these links and see what they do. Also, if you would like me to provide a test environment, just leave that in the comment section below, and I am going to do that. Other than that, I want to stop this video here, and the next video is going to be about creating of items for stock management. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in my next video.